Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to BBB. I am JB.
I'm the doctor.
Hey, good to see you all tonight. As always, if you haven't joined us before, first of all, welcome to Better Business Brewing with JB and the doctor. This is an opportunity for us to answer questions live, to answer questions and challenges from people that we work with within the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab, our private community. It's also a chance for us to have a drink and sit back and relax a little bit with all of you. So if you happen to catch us live, whether it's on LinkedIn, on our Facebook business page, or within our private Facebook community, good to see you. And if you're returning again, thanks for joining us once more.
What he said. I'm ready for the relaxed part. I don't know about anything else, but I'm ready for that relaxed part.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. It's been a day and a week. We've got a lot going on, a lot of good stuff. So I'm pretty pumped.
It's been a long week for a Tuesday.
It is. So were you able to pour yourself anything for this evening? You got anything fun you're drinking?
I did. I don't know about fun. It's not my usual go-to, but I did pour a glass of wine, and it's white wine. I don't know if you can read that. It says After Patience. That's my wine glass that was gifted to me. And the reason I'm drinking white wine tonight is because I had an open bottle because I made some ossobuco on Sunday and used the white wine for the sauce. Hence had some extra white wine that has to be drunken. So I'm going to do that.
So you're drinking your cooking wine.
Yes. Well, I mean, you got to use good wine.
Or you cooked your wine. Okay.
I mean, it's not like a high-end white by any means, but you want something decent if you're going to make a sauce out of it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I'm with you. Funny enough, mine doesn't have anything fancy on it, but I am also drinking white wine. I'm going to be honest. I started with some Zinfandel out of the Delta from California. I like Zins. It's my favorite reds. They got a little bit extra kick to them, but I didn't have a full bottle. I didn't even have half a bottle, to be fair. I should probably put that out there. I had a glass and it was empty, and that was earlier. So I thought I'd switch over to a little white Pinot Noir, which never had before. 13 degrees Celsius. I'm sure it's nothing fancy at all.
Try that. What kind of wine is it again?
A Pinot Grigio.
There you go.
I swear it was just one glass. I said Pinot Noir, didn't I?
You did.
Don't judge. Anyways, here's to you. Here's to all our listeners, viewers, and everybody out there, whether you're listening on the podcast afterwards or watching on YouTube or catching us live. This is to you. Cheers.
Salud.
Machin's saying it right. Bottle of morphine with 2 straws. Would you just have surgery, man? Now that's a party.
I mean, it tastes similar to white wine. White wine's got that nice, like, puckery kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it's good for hot weather, and we're getting that here in Florida at this point. I mean, it's hot.
Well, that a small understatement. And the fun part is we're not even technically in June yet. And that means we're still on preheat.
You're getting real technical there. It's like 4 hours away. So, but you're right. It's still early. Well, whatever we're feeling now is just going to be a cool spring breeze by the time we get into the heat of August. On the good side of things, though, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up now that it's summertime.
Yes, tell us all.
You want me to tell us all? Okay. So if you're here local to Southeast Florida, and even if you're not, by the way, you're always welcome to visit us here in Southeast Florida. But if you're local here, we've got a pretty big event coming up, sponsored by Brightline and a little love from Tito's and Sam Adams, right?
Correct.
So this is all part of our evolved networking and some of our impact workshops that we're really pretty stoked to have. And it's coming up when, Doc?
It is coming up Thursday, June 23rd.
That's right around the corner, about 3 weeks away. And Chris, that is sometime after my kid comes. I hope, pray it's sometime after my kid comes. Depending on when you're listening to this, my kid's already here. But yeah, we're any day now, and so I will be working.
Popping out soon.
I will be working from home, and you can see the chair in the background. It's ready for the kiddo, or for me if I get too tired or have too many of these. Either way, the chair's ready. It's the most ready out of all of us, I swear.
I'm betting your wife is more than ready at this point.
Oh my God, is she ever? She is an angel. I don't know how she does it. I know how she's doing the pregnancy. She's doing just fine. I don't know how she puts up with me. But yeah, she's ready. We're all ready. 9 months is a long time.
I can relate there. Not necessarily the pregnancy part, but the putting up with you part.
I'm not gonna dig myself any further into that one. I'm smart. But I am pumped for the 23rd. I'm really looking forward to that. We should have a great crowd. If you've never been to the Brightline station here in Fort Lauderdale, we're actually doing it in the VIP premiere section. So it's a great way to check it out. We'll have some drink tickets for everybody. We're expecting a really pretty large crowd of great people. So if you're looking forward to some structured networking, that's really going to power up who you meet and the connections you make. This is a must-attend event. You'll be able to find it on Eventbrite, and we'll be posting and really promoting this all over social media.
And it's us, so it's going to be innovative. We're going to keep you on your toes in a fun way.
That's right. No dance moves, right? Or are you breaking out the dance moves?
Tito's and Sam Adams, there's a good chance there might be a dance move or two.
You can make it happen. You got the build of a ballerina.
Just as graceful.
I said that with a straight face.
So we expect everyone in the comment section to make sure they're joining us.
Yeah, Machen, all the way from the West Coast, man.
And I don't really want to hear that as an excuse either, right? Because plane, assuming it doesn't get canceled, flights coming in, you hop on like a little Southwest or something, you can get in pretty good. They're running like $59 fares right now. Just saying. And yes, they can sponsor us also, but do it.
Hey, we'll take all the sponsorships. I'm pretty proud of getting some sponsorships for this one, and I think we owe that to you. So kudos to you, Doc. Nice job.
They love us, and how can they not?
That is the power of a strong connection and impact networking right there. So pretty pumped. So man, let's chat a little bit. Let's break this down. Any challenges you've been hearing about from people? Anything that you've been kind of working on with the people you're chatting with? Fill me in.
Besides the incredible heat that we've already covered, because that has been prime topic. What's interesting is I think
you dig deep.
So some of the conversation that's come out has been interesting, and I know we'll probably be talking about this a little bit more as the month goes on, but we are headed towards Q3, and that caught a lot of people by surprise. Like when we were talking about June, people were doing the calculation, and they're like, how are we almost halfway through the year? And that was really just, it created some energy that it's June, but it also created a little bit of that worry and excitement or anxiety, depending on how you want to view it, on hitting those numbers that they had set for themselves and catching up on some of the things they fell behind on, because these months are flying by. So it's just interesting to kind of see how that, I checked in with a lot of people over the last week or so on that idea with June approaching, and a lot of them were really shocked, which is funny how the calendar works.
Yeah, I mean, we're we're almost exactly at the halfway mark, and you figure for a lot of people there's only 20 to 22 business days a month, so you project that out. You say you've got 6 full months left at 20 to 22 days. That's not a lot of time, and you tend to be heavily loaded on the holidays for the second half of the year. You get Thanksgiving and on can be, for some people, a great time of year, but for others, business shuts down. It just depends on the type of business you're in. So you look at that and you say, well, we're halfway through the year, but we're probably even further than halfway through the year at this point, just because of how many holidays are left and kind of the way most business cycles tend to kick out. That can be intimidating for a lot of people, especially when it gets kind of smacks them in the face and they realize it out of the blue.
Yeah, and in some of the conversations I have around with some other therapists and stuff that I work with, I think their shock was summer months are slow is generally what we find in our field, like because most people are going away on vacations or the kids are coming home, so their time or their income changes a little bit for the summer. So we noticed that usually like a slowdown around especially June. And when they're thinking about going into that slowdown and not putting those things that they'd hoped to have in place when June is coming, like, a little bit of kick up in May so that they can cruise through June, and realizing that May just ended, that was it was a big shocker. So depending on what kind of field you're in, it makes a little difference too. Like where the holidays might, throw off some people at the end of the year, summertime could also have a big effect on a lot of other fields in a way that's different.
Do you have any advice for anybody out there that's got a slowdown kicking into the summer?
It goes back to a lot of the same advice as that preparation, right? Like if you expect it to come and you can prepare for it, then it's not a shock and you're ready. Right? And then if you stay busy or if you pick up at all, like that's a bonus. It's like if you walked into Starbucks to pay for coffee, you're expecting coffee to be at Starbucks, right? So you have that expectation. But if they handed you a free donut, you're not expecting that, but you're going to love it. So I kind of have people with that kind of mindset of set your expectation for what you're hoping for or what you're thinking is going to happen. What's the data show? What's that reality? And if your data shows it's usually a trend down, plan for that. But then when you pop in and something happens different, then that's a bonus. But don't plan for that bonus. Plan for that expectation. So it's just kind of setting expectations to flow and doing that prep work. Those are my two big things I've been kind of. Because right now we're at that point where we're a little bit past the preparations, and now I'm really just helping set expectations.
I don't know that I've ever set expectations for a donut from Starbucks. There's a lot of things I expect from Starbucks, but you normally I'm not getting donuts there.
That's the whole point. You don't expect a donut from them, but if they handed you one, you would be happy. Or a snow cone.
Well, my kid would certainly be happy. He'd be in heaven. So I got another recommendation because we saw this a lot in the financial service industry. Summers do slow down when people go on vacation. It's harder to get business done. Period. You might be in the real estate field, it might be the exact opposite. It's summertime. This is when people want to move. But when things slow down, it's an awesome opportunity for review because chances are there's some projects, there's some goals, there's some things you wanted to get done that you didn't accomplish. That's just the reality when you're setting high goals. There's a reasonable chance you're not going to achieve all of them, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a great opportunity to review what did work, what didn't work, and what you still have to get done, and to maybe put some more time and attention into some of that you didn't have a chance to put into when things were really humming. It's also a good opportunity to double down on all the opportunities out there that you couldn't follow up with as much when you were really busy. Now is the time to really kind of start tickling back on those targets, those clients, those prospects more than you did in the past because you've got the freed up time. So it's just a shift of your focus, but it's good to look back instead of getting caught looking too much forward sometimes when you're in this environment and things have slowed down.
The other thing that I'd like to say is, this could also be some very good self-care time. If you plan appropriately, like, that, so it's very interesting is if you go over to like Europe, and you happen to say be in the therapist world, a lot of them just take the whole month of August off. So trying to find a therapist in Europe in August is sometimes a challenge, which I I find wonderful in the sense that they are taking that much time for self-care, and they're smart and they plan knowing that that is a lean month in general. So instead of fretting and worrying about what they're going to do in August, they just say, hey, we're going to plan the 11 months strong. And then when come August, we're going to take some time for ourselves to recharge so that we can go into those winter months strong. And I think that's also a great idea too. Use some of that time to recharge, set up, and then come back and kill it strong.
Summer vacation, anybody? A whole month? I could not do it. I could not mentally handle a month away. I'd go crazy. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'm not the only one, right? There are people listening right now or watching this, or they're going to catch down the road and they're going to be like, I'm with JB on this. There's no way.
Oh, I can do it. I'm ready right now. Let's go.
But all of a sudden, I'm getting a Slack message. Hey, I'm taking off all of August. Didn't you know?
I'm moving to Europe, at least for August. That does sound wonderful. I mean, I can fill the time.
Yeah,
I have faith in myself. Let us know what you think. Would you like a whole month off? Would you be able to fill that time? Would you be like me and figure out plenty of beaches to go to and or activities to fill yourself with? Or would you be like JB where you were like, I can't do it? We'd love to hear. Put it into the comments below. Or if you're watching on YouTube, that's another place you can put it.
See, Machen's with me. He's saying it takes him an entire month just to unwind. That sounds about right. Like I'd probably have to have a little bit of a nervous breakdown about 3 weeks. Then I can relax.
You're just making my point, though. If it takes you that long to unwind, that means you need that time.
Maybe. It's not going to happen, though. It's not going to happen.
So, which is very interesting because now I'm thinking a whole new networking opportunity for myself, marketing-wise, that you guys don't know how to relax. This is a skill that I'm seeing a few people in the comments that are struggling with that. And I'm going to reach out to each one of you and I'm going to offer my services to teach how to relax.
That is something that's like one of those things, when you hear from somebody and it's like, hey, that's something that sounds great, but I would like never pay to do it. Right. Like, I agree. I could totally use how to relax. But like, I would never pay to do that. Like, I'd be like, nah, I'd rather just be neurotic and type A. Like, I'd just own it.
You have trouble putting yourself first. I get it. I understand.
You know what? It's probably true too. Let's stop. I'm a little concerned about all this focus on you give me enough therapy offline. You don't need to be doing it online.
Hey, having a baby. I'm trying to get you ready.
There is nothing that's going to get me ready for having a baby.
Good point. So how about yourself? What have you heard? I know you've been doing a lot of outreach and speaking to a lot of people and making some awesome new connections. What have you seen out there? What's on the pulse of the community right now?
Well, I think you're right. I think one of the challenges I've been hearing from people, and I said you're right because I mean, kind of the focus getting into the end of Q2 and into Q3.
Or just that I'm right. That's just always the obvious answer.
Okay. Yeah. Here's to you being right. Enjoy your drink of wine. What I've been hearing a lot about is just distractions, which we've talked about before, right? But just a lot coming at people where their ability to kind of stay focused is getting impacted. And here's the ironic thing, probably stepping back will help a lot with that for most of these people. I know that tends to help me. Like when I start getting too much coming at me and I'm struggling to focus, it's like a step back goes a long way to just kind of reset what I need to focus on. But I think it comes back to the conversation we had with Dan Nunez from our podcast, Doc, where it's like there's a lot that you can pursue. So how do you kind of take advantage of opportunities or identify when they're opportunities? And how do you figure out what's not a real opportunity? Especially now where people kind of couch it and they hide it, right? What are they? Like, I had a phone call earlier today where somebody's like, "Oh, so and so wants to chat with you. They want to invest in you," and I'm like, "What are you talking about exactly?" And they're like, "Well, they don't invest with everybody, but they want to invest with you." And I'm like, "I don't understand what you're saying to me," and I'm like, "In what aspect?" And it turned out like it was like somebody who was trying to recruit me for a job, and it's like, you ain't recruited me for a job at this stage. Like, I'm sitting here drinking wine on LinkedIn and Facebook. You're not recruiting me for a job. I promise you. I'm good. Machin, good seeing you, buddy, by the way. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to focus. It's hard to identify what's a good opportunity. So that's what I've been hearing from people a little bit.
Well, that makes sense. And I mean, it's that idea of wanting, a lot of those ideas probably sound great. And, how do I capitalize on all of them? And people get caught up in that a lot of like just trying to chase that idea because they all do sound great. And you're like, how do you make them all work? Because they all sound great. And I want to hit them all out the park. And you generally want to hit one out of the park, right? Like that's the goal. But if you think about it, like as a baseball game, or if anyone's played tennis, especially when you're practicing, if someone throws one ball at you, you can concentrate on that ball and try to hit it. Now, if it's baseball, I'll probably still swing and miss. Tennis, I might have a better shot. But if they throw a bunch of balls at you at once, you think the odds would be better of hitting one because there's so many of them. But the chances are you actually miss more of them because your brain can't focus on one to even hit it. It just sees a bunch of stuff coming at you, and then it kind of just gets in defense mode and throws the racket up, and you usually get hit and fall down. But there is that idea. It sounds better, but in reality is you want to be able to just to concentrate and focus on one. So, that takes some effort to kind of tease through them and see which one feels best for you. And it might not always be the thing that seems like it would be the best idea, but it might be the thing that just feels best for you. And, pulling that out and teasing those ideas out, that's challenging.
That's well said, Doc. I got to say, when it comes to fielding opportunities, when it comes to a lot of things coming at you, to me, it's all about managing the calendar and triaging the calendar, just kind of identifying, is this where my focus and attention should be in this part of my day? Like on this day of the week, at this part of my day, should I really be focused on this? And is it okay for me kind of giving yourself permission to say, this is not the time I've set aside for this, but I should have time set aside for this. So if I want to vet out a new relationship, a new opportunity, if I've got some stuff coming at me that I'm not expecting, we should have time carved out on our calendars for that, at least once a week for that sort of thing. And we shouldn't be afraid to kind of volley it back and say, hey, yeah, I'll take a look, or I'll dig into this. But you know what? That's a Thursday afternoon activity for me. So let's carve out 15 minutes then, and kind of respect your time, respect your schedule, and keep it in its place. And that'll help a lot. I find the more structure we have on our calendars, and it's not about being rigid, but the more structure we have, the more flexibility we actually have.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
Might not
be the first time I've said it, but we say this in sales all the time, 5 to 7 times is what it takes before somebody actually hears what you're saying.
And so that was number really 2 or 3. Part of it. Yeah, that's just hearing part of it. The other thing that's interesting is with these ideas and finding the time for them is finding that balance with it. Generally, what I find is when someone gets a new idea, they get really excited about that, and they want to put a lot of energy and effort into it, which is great. But then they start to neglect the things that are actually in place already. And sometimes it might be, the job you're working at now, or the company, or whatever it may be. And then you shift that energy towards the new thing because of excitement, and you might let some other things go past. So you really want to make sure that as you are splitting that time, as you are scheduling it, you're not neglecting the things that are already in place for the new idea. Let that new idea vet out a little bit. Let it earn its space. Once it's earned some space, then you keep giving it more. But until it's earned it, make sure that you keep that balance in place.
Can we double down on that for a second? I like love what you just said right there. Let it earn its space, right? Don't just put something on a pedestal, and don't just give it the distinguishment of a lot of time and energy. Let it earn it. Let it grow into it a little bit. And I'm not saying ignore something, but I really like what you said with that, Doc. Let it earn its space.
Yeah, your calendar is valuable. You want to, everything that's on that calendar should have earned its spot there. And if it hasn't, then take a look. And that's where we go back to what we were just saying earlier about using that time, right? Like if you have a little extra time, go through that calendar to make sure that the things that you have on there have earned its space on there so you can use it properly. And if it hasn't, then that might be some freeing up some time for some of those other things. We don't go back and check that often enough.
So I know I said I didn't want you to analyze me anymore, but now I'm kind of like scratching my head and I'm going, well, geez, I'm not taking time out for myself, like an extended period of time. Do I feel like I haven't earned my space in my calendar?
So
I almost don't want to know the answer to that. don't answer. That was rhetorical.
I'm not going to use you as a perfect example for this.
Right. Thank you.
But if it feels familiar, then just go with it. I think a lot of times that whole idea too of I don't want to give myself that time. It's not as important. Is that sometimes a little bravado, sometimes a little ego, but also sometimes it's that the idea that we've built up for ourselves that I can't waste time doing those things. But if we actually look at it, you put some time on your schedule for yourself if it is important. And I can use you as a little example here as you do. Like you have your morning routine, that's your time for yourself that you've carved out. That's because it's important to you. You do it every day. So are you adding some of these other things in? Maybe not. Should you be? Maybe. We don't know. I mean, you'd have to take a look at that yourself. But I don't want to lose the idea that a lot of the times you are doing that when it might not just get the same kind of attention or highlight because it's become so habitual. Like your brain doesn't see it that way anymore. It just sees it as what I'm doing.
Well, to your point, I'll add to it because it's true. I mean, I joke around sometimes. I don't give myself time, but that's a real load of BS because I do get up early in the morning. I do carve out time pretty much every day to exercise, to meditate, to be alone, just to have a cup of coffee for a few minutes by myself. I might not take extended periods of time all at once, but I'm really good about building time in every day. I just front load it more often than not. And backload it because I tend to kind of keep my I say I like to ritualize my mornings and my evenings and I protect them. This is a once a month event that we have that's pretty late in the evening, but aside from that, I have a pretty hard shut off early compared to most people. And I'm very proud of that. I won't answer my phone. I won't do things after a certain period of time in the evening because I respect that part of my time and it has earned its space.
So that baby comes and changes it all.
Changes all of it, dude. Oh my gosh, everything. Thanks for the reminder.
So to add to that a little bit too, I think that's where we're all different, right? We're unique people and one size doesn't fit all. And there's going to be some, and this is why we like to use different examples because different people are going to relate to different things. So some, just like we were kind of joking earlier about the month off, tongue-in-cheek joking, but some of it's true. Some people are really going to I can't do that month off. I would be bored. Some people are going to be like, I love it. Give it to me now. The same thing is going to be on your daily stuff, right? Some people are going to front load in the morning and have their routine like JB's talking about every day, routine, where some are going to be like, you know what? I'd rather save up some of that and then take a whole weekend off or take a whole week off and use that time. So I'll sacrifice a little bit on the day knowing that I'm going to get it back at the end, and some people do this monthly. So people do this differently depending on how they best feel it fits for them. And here's the beauty of this: try different things. You don't know which one you're going to like yet until you try different ones. So give it a shot. Try the morning one, try an evening one, try once a week one. Try to find out what works best for you and keep playing with it until you really find what you like.
Yeah. I'd argue even once you find what you like, sometimes it's good to switch it up. Kind of like stress test a little bit on your life, step outside of the comfort zone a little bit, probably healthier overall to every now and then kind of push yourself outside of the daily. It's not a bad thing, right? Because life does get in the way. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Life really doesn't allow you to, even if you try.
Well, and sometimes we have to disrupt that because, we like to disrupt things when we're trying to change a behavior, but sometimes we have to disrupt those things that we have as good behaviors so that we can realize how much value that they're bringing us. So
Just to keep them.
If we get into that system where it becomes a habit, sometimes we also think of it as a rut. And our brain doesn't, again, know the difference. It doesn't recognize something it's doing on autopilot as valuable sometimes. And you have to disrupt that so that it can re-recognize it as valuable.
All right, so I just feel like you're dropping bombs tonight. Like I don't think I normally call you out for having some spectacular wisdom every night when we're having a drink, but I'm really pretty happy with what you just said right there, because we talk about disruptors on changing bad behaviors. We don't talk about disruptors to reinforce good behaviors all that often, but it's true, because it's very easy for a behavior to become habitual, to become ritualized, for us to start putting the focus on it, and it kind of moves into autopilot. But that means it's also very easy for us to lose perspective on it and to maybe not give it this credit that it deserves, to your point, right? And so that disruptor allows us to kind of recall and get reminded to, it calls us back to, hey, why was I doing this? What's the benefit of it? Oh, there's a lot of benefit to it. And now I realize it's not there right now. Like I lost it for a minute or two or a day or two.
So our brain's interesting in the sense of it likes to automate things, but it doesn't really know what's good or bad. Like it has no concept of good or bad. What it has a concept of is whatever we reinforce. So if we do something consistently and then reinforce it with some sort of feeling, and it doesn't always have to be a good feeling, it just has to be a feeling. So your brain knows that there's an emotion attached to it. Then it starts to put that on repeat. So the same system is going to work, whether you're changing a behavior or actually just trying to reinforce it in a positive way. You want to throw some of those disruptors in, and then you want to go back to those 3 R's, which you've heard me talk about before, which is review it, repeat it, and reinforce it. And if you do those things to change them and to make sure that they stick, it doesn't matter, because your brain doesn't know good for bad. You have to tell it eventually which one you want it to do.
And it's always a great time to review, but especially if things are slowing down and you're about halfway through the year and you got some goals to hit, it might just be a good time to review right now.
We're halfway through a BBB event. We just got to.
I mean, we are. We don't have to go a full hour. How much wine do you have left in that glass?
That is a challenge. Most of it went into the sauce.
Yeah. So
can I tell you how good the Osambuco was, though? I mean, if you haven't made any lately, highly recommend. Delish.
No, I haven't made any lately. I haven't made anything lately. Kind of make me hungry, though.
So I'll give a quick aside, because we like to have some fun a little bit too.
We do.
My Osambuco story feels a little bit better right now that I had it. So what had happened was I went on vacation to Vegas for a few days, had a great time, came back, and my freezer that had a lot of good meat in it that I had put, specifically saved for when I was getting back so I wouldn't have to go shopping and spend any money, somehow got unplugged while I was gone, and everything inside was bad. So that I came home to this like devastating defeat of throwing away all my delicious meat. And one of the things in there was some Osambuco that I had bought on sale that I was really excited to have. So I convinced myself to replace it, and then finally got to enjoy it. So I turned that story around a little bit, but it was so devastating. Still cry a little tears about it.
You like opened up the door for me to say, this is why I don't go on vacation. I would never let anything in my freezer go bad. I wouldn't be away from home. Just pointing that out.
Yeah. I thought it was still a fair trade. I still got the Osambuco.
Vegas, Osambuco. Yeah, all right. You got both. You winner chicken dinner over here. you gotta have both.
You gotta reframe it for yourself, turn it around, and still have the Osambuco.
Yeah, and it's funny, Dre. You talk about how stepping away from consistency can remind you of why something's good, but we talked about even potentially canceling tonight's BBB because we didn't know if my kid was coming. And it's like, hey, you know what? Let's keep it, because we want to keep the consistency. You know, we want to have this out there for those of you watching, listening, the podcast, so on. We want you to know it's here, last Tuesday of every month without fail, because I attach an emotion to this. I don't know about everybody else. This is very emotional for me. It's got some meaning.
I mean, you guys would miss us, right?
I would miss us.
I mean, I would have came here and talked to myself for a good hour. That would have been entertaining. It's for somebody. I don't know.
There's been a couple of these where I thought for a minute or two it might just be.
That's fair. Tuesday is a busy office day for me, and I'm usually working right up to the time that we go live. So it's sometimes it's an adventure. Tonight my 7 o'clock canceled, so I had a little leeway.
How late did they cancel on you? Because I bet that this is something everybody we work with deals with, right? Cancellations. It happens.
It has. It's actually happened quite a bit in the last few weeks, more than usual. A lot of valid reasons. This one wasn't. I don't know about a valid reason. This one was late, but it was someone new. So there's no really relationship built up yet. So I had no expectation. And that's what we talked about earlier, setting those expectations, right? I don't set expectations until they deserve to be set. And this one wasn't set yet. So it wasn't a big disappointment for me.
That's really interesting. We might have a big difference of opinion on this one. What do you mean you don't set expectations until they deserve to, or they earn like the expectations? So you're telling me you have a new relationship. I'm
not
sure
necessarily a relationship yet.
Okay. So there's new client, no relationship yet. You're not setting expectations up front on like policy and your time and how this is going to look going forward. I'm sure you are.
Well, I set standards, but I don't have any expectations of them yet. So I
for yourself,
I put the right expectations to the situation. This is like the same thing going into Starbucks. I'm not expecting that donut. I'm just expecting coffee. So I expect that they'll follow those rules, but I don't have the expectation that they're going to live to it. They've not given me any evidence to have any expectation around them.
Right. So you're not setting your expectations for them to necessarily follow the standard, but you are setting standards.
Sure.
So there's a difference here between standard and expectation. Right. Okay.
But I don't have the expectation that they're going to live up to them yet, because I have no evidence that they will. I have nothing to put towards that. And that saves me from a lot of headache a lot of times. And I like to set expectations accordingly to the situation. It doesn't mean you don't hope for more. It doesn't mean that you could wish for more, or even if someone expects some more, but the expectation of that meeting that is and it sounds like kind of use the same word, but if you think about that difference, it is there, right?
No, I think there's a huge difference between standards and expectations. So setting a standard is setting an understanding of these are the ground rules, right? This is the sandbox we're playing in. This is the sandbox. These are the rules of the sandbox. But what you're saying is you're not setting yourself up to have an emotional response one way or the other to somebody following those rules or not, until you start to get a feel for whether they are going to or not. So you're not setting yourself up for emotional failure, is what I'm hearing from you.
And I think some things we take into consideration of, I'm talking about a therapy practice in this sense too. So it usually takes a lot for someone to call a therapist, psychologist, to set up an appointment to begin with. And depending on what they're dealing with, there might be some underlying reasons why they don't live up to those expectations. So I don't even know it's their fault. Like, it just could be something that it is. So I set that accordingly also, right? Like, this is part of the business. This could happen. I don't expect anything more. If they show up, then it's great. Like, then I feel like it's that bonus. It's that free donut. And then, next time we meet, I can build up some new expectations for them, because now I have some sort of relationship around it. Now I have some evidence. And, if there's someone that comes consistently all the time, then I have a different expectation that I would expect to see them there. And if they don't, then I know it's something, there's a very valid reason.
Yeah. You would think, if anything, if we're setting expectations for for behavior, especially unknown behavior, we kind of got to follow the law of large numbers here, which is, what percentage of people are going to, follow the standard and meet the standard. And there's going to be a percentage that don't. And that's okay. Instead of, setting ourselves up for emotional reactions to that, it's kind of recognizing, hey, my expectation is, 25% or whatever that number is. Could be 15%. That could be 50%, depending on your business, but they're not going to meet those standards that I set in place. And, maybe that's just a good indicator of they're not a good fit for you or your business. They're not a good client, or you're not a good solution for what their problem really is. But large numbers, it's just a statistical probability you're going to have some that are going to no-show, cancel, or not meet that standard.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all unique individuals, right? One size doesn't fit all, and that is that's for the good and the bad. And a lot of the times, and we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs here that, have set higher standards for themselves because they know it's needed to survive in their business, in their world, right? Like, we have to hold up some standards. Not everyone out there holding the same standards. Not everyone is in that same mindset. They might not think twice about missing or having to cancel or calling to let you know ahead of time. Like, that might not even be on their radar. And for us to believe that about them without having any of that evidence, that's on us. Like, that's an assumption that they had those same standards. We don't know that until we get some evidence around that. So that's also why you kind of level your own expectations of what to expect.
Level your own expectations on what to expect. I like this conversation, man. I really do. I don't know that I've heard many conversations that really dig into expectations versus standards. And I think when most people hear expectations, they're probably thinking, and maybe this is just me, maybe it's not most people, but I hear expectations and I think, okay, setting expectations for my client, but that's really setting standards. And it's more about setting a standard. And then, my expectation is if I'm working with an ideal client or prospect, they will meet that standard. But I should also expect that not everybody I talk to is going to fit that ideal profile. They're not going to be my ideal avatar.
Absolutely. And I think another way that this can be very valuable, and this has actually kind of come up quite a bit this week, a lot of the people I've been working with and hearing their stories. And this is where I think expectation a little bit different. This might also give some clarity. Say maybe you have a partner, family member, or friend, whatever it may be, and they constantly argue about the same thing, right? Like, if you come in and you do something that you set a boundary on, they constantly cross that boundary. And this is kind of a bad example because if they're crossing boundaries, you should set that straight. But let's just use this as I'm going with, because I've already started. So they cross that boundary every time. Now, if you go in thinking that they're not going to cross that boundary, that's on you, because the expectation should be that this person's evidence is every time that I do this, they cross that boundary. So if you go with that expectation that they're not going to cross, you're not going to be disappointed, right? Because you're expecting them to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you accept it. It doesn't mean that you should go with it. It just means that you level your expectation to what evidence they presented you. Then you can make changes from there. But you don't keep getting mad at them for doing the same thing you expect them to do, right? Like, that's just wasting your own energy, because now you're putting your own emotion to something that they've given you the evidence that they're going to keep doing. So that's where I say setting that expectation. I set that expectation that they're going to overstep that boundary. That's kind of what I expect from them. And if they don't, great, bonus. But if they do, then I'm not going to get mad, because that's what I expected from them. Then I respond in a way that changes that behavior. And that might be changing the relationship, whatever it may be. We're not going to go into that deep part. But that's where I also talk about setting expectations. You shouldn't get angry at those things that people are giving the evidence for.
I feel like this is just a great lesson in how to manage your emotions and limit your reactions. And most good professionals are always looking for that next great technique they can use to better respond when they're faced with adversity or a challenge. And what better way to, and I'm using respond intentionally here, what better way than to implement something like this, which is going to help you avoid reaction, because reaction is never what we want to have. It's always we want a response without a reaction. Reaction is typically thoughtless. It's emotional.
Reaction is basically it's a response off of emotion. So it's not thought out. It's not generally even what you want. It's just a very emotional reaction.
Well, that's it. It's usually, I mean, for most of us, when we say we react to something, it's like, oh gosh, looking back, hindsight 2020, I wish I had paused, I had thought for a second, I had taken a breath, I had stepped away, I didn't send that email, I didn't type that, whatever, that text message didn't go out. That was a reaction. Much better to be able to respond. But what better way to make sure you're more likely to respond than to react, than to put yourself in a position where you're not going to react in the first place, because your expectations for the situation are set correctly. I just think that this is like a master class in how to minimize reactions to something. I love it.
And it's a lot of what I've been talking about today. So it's top of mind.
Yeah.
But it's one of the founding, it's really the building blocks is on better communication, better self-care, right? If you're not letting your emotions are great. Let's get that straight. Like, emotions are good. You should be angry sometimes. You should be frustrated. You should be sad. You should be happy. A range of emotions is one of the healthiest things that you can give yourself. You just want to be able to control those emotions and not let them control you. And especially you don't want other people to control them for you. Now, you could get an emotion because of something that's happened, which is, again, quite fine. And you want to feel it and you want to take that in and you want to let that emotion have its moment. You don't want to obsess over it. But once you learn to control your emotions and it's a lot easier to control your emotions if you give them space to allow them to feel, then you start to get control over them. Then you don't have to feel the need to react. You won't have to, because your brain also knows that it's allowed to have emotion. So it'll allow you time to process to be able to respond.
And I'm just going to drop what I think is the single most effective point most people should remember when they're approaching a situation that they're reacting in or going to react in. This, if you can remember this will bring you such a long way. There are very, 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 very few situations that we need to immediately respond, where we can't just take a moment, take a breath, or even take a minute or an hour or potentially a day. I mean, we are in this world where we have this pressure and we set expectations for ourselves, right, on needing to respond immediately or reply immediately to something. And if we can just remember, hey, I don't need to immediately address this or reply to this, then we can really help limit how our emotions are kind of coming into play. We can experience our emotions without making a situation worse, without allowing our emotions to take over for us.
So 2 quick tips that can really help in that situation. If it's something that's especially like an email or a text message, something that's not direct contact in front of the person, what JB just said exactly is you don't have a time limit on when you need to respond. But the first thing you probably want to do is write out whatever response you think you want to do and then delete it. And then go back and do it again. Because a lot of times you just kind of need, as you're learning these skills, you just kind of need to get it out. And then once it comes out, you'll realize that's not really what you wanted to say. But a lot of times we get that, we type it and then hit send really quick before we even think about it. Do the first draft, delete it, and then go back and start over. And you'll find that you'll be much more calm and be able to think a little clearer around it. So that's one tip. Now, if you are in front of the person and you have to actually respond and you don't have the ability of waiting before you send that message, just take a deep breath. That gives you enough time to reset your brain. One good deep breath will help reset. And it only takes 3 seconds, 5 maybe, which is really no time in the world, which you should really be taking 3 to 5 seconds before you respond to anything anyways, because you want to give yourself, your brain, a chance to catch up to your mouth. So just take a deep breath, and that actually will help reset your brain. So 2 quick tips.
Love them. pause. We can never take back what we say. Sometimes better to think for a moment before we speak.
Sound advice from a married man.
One mouth. We're a salesman too. We have 2 of these. We should be listening twice as much as we speak.
Yeah, we could do a whole other. I'm sure we have. There is actually a good podcast out there right now about active listening.
There is, isn't there? Who did that?
I can't remember. Some handsome gentleman.
2 amazing coaches did something like that. You know what? I'm like super content with our conversation tonight. I don't feel the need to push this another time. I'm like very happy with what we covered here tonight.
Well, it's not all about you. Although I agree with you, I think it's been very good. But we will say there is an audience, and if anybody has a quick question they want to ask us.
Oh, man.
I'll repeat that for those that didn't hear. If we do have an audience, if anyone does have a quick question they want to ask us, feel free to shoot it real quickly into the box. Otherwise, we will start wrapping up. But we want to give that opportunity for those that maybe have been waiting patiently and didn't want to interrupt us. We want to give that opportunity. Or they might just be sitting there so wowed.
I'm
or drunk.
I'm actually really impressed with some of what you covered here tonight. I thought you were. I feel like you didn't cancel your 7 o'clock. You just rescheduled it for 8 o'clock, and you gave us all that energy and attention. I appreciate that. I also happy to appreciate our viewers and our commenters. Got a little love out there, so thank you all for giving us a shout out, saying what's up, Anita, Mage, Chris. Appreciate all you. Thank you guys.
Yes, we love the interaction. It makes life keep going. It makes us feel happy.
It does.
We also love
empty glass of wine. Doesn't hurt.
True. This is the real reason he wants to wrap up. He wants to refill. We also, things that we do love are when you share our content and you share our podcast and these events with your friends and enemies. We don't discriminate. Share with both. Also give those likes and stars and notification bells and all those things. If there's a button, click it. As long as it's not the thumb down one. Everything else, just click it.
So if you're catching this on our podcast, unfortunately, you don't get to see our faces, but you can certainly see the review button and give us a nice 5-star review if you think we earned it. I think we did. And if you're watching on YouTube, certainly down the road, then yes, give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, a share us, put us in front of the people that you love. Some of what we said is going to help somebody you know. I can pretty much guarantee that confidently. And that's not just the Vino speaking. It was a good conversation tonight.
It's facts. We have the evidence. There's a good expectation for that. And
even if I'm wrong, well, I got a kid coming. I'm not going to be around. So you're not going to find me. I'm just going to be dealing with an infant. And even if you found me, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll catch you in a few months. You keep the baby. You leave me alone.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, he's going to be back to work the next day because he, as we just said, can't take a day off.
I like to think that I can do more than one thing in a given day. And both things can be true at once. Somebody wise I know has said that before.
I can't imagine who that would be.
I don't know.
I've trained my people to say that for me now. I don't even have to say it.
Oh, now you need to give me a compliment. If you're training me, you need to give me some positive reinforcement. Remember? Where's my wine?
So I'm doing. I'm getting you so you can go get it. All right, folks. On that note.
Yep. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. JB and the Doc, BBB, Better Business Brewing. Catch us the last Tuesday of every single month without fail. Coming at you live, Facebook, private community, and on LinkedIn. And once again, yes, June 23rd, Brightline Station, Fort Lauderdale, Evolve Networking. Come join us.
5:30 p.m.
You will not regret it. We promise you.
We'll see you all there. If you guys have any questions or want to comment, remember, you can always find us at jbandthedoctor.com or on all social media at jbandthedoctor, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You know it. We're there.
Good, everybody.
And we'll see y'all later.
Night, everybody.
Peace out, yo.